When a man loves you, it doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself with promises that stretch farther than his actions. Real love doesn't rush in to impress, it stays to understand. When a man loves you, you don't have to guess. Love does not live in confusion. It doesn't leave you replaying conversations at night, wondering if you asked for too much or said the wrong thing. Love makes space for clarity. Love that is real does not live in mixed signals. It does not thrive in silence that leaves you doubting yourself or questioning where you stand. Clarity is not something you have to beg for when love is present. It is something that naturally emerges through honest communication, consistent behavior, and emotional availability. When someone truly cares, they understand that uncertainty creates distance, and they choose transparency instead. Confusion often disguises itself as mystery, but love is not a puzzle meant to be solved. If you find yourself overanalyzing texts, rereading conversations, or constantly wondering whether you matter, that is not depth, it is instability. Love does not keep you guessing about your value or your place. It reassures rather than destabilizes. It feels grounding, not disorienting. Clarity in love means intentions are aligned with actions. Words are not contradicted by behavior, and promises are not casually made or easily broken. You know where you stand because the relationship does not rely on emotional hide and seek. When something changes, it is named, not avoided. When there is discomfort, it is addressed, not buried. Clarity does not mean there is no conflict. It means conflict is handled with respect and openness instead of withdrawal or manipulation. Love that creates clarity also honors emotional honesty. You are allowed to ask questions without being labeled needy. You are allowed to express feelings without being dismissed or minimized. Healthy love understands that clarity is an act of care. It recognizes that reassurance is not a weakness but a responsibility. When someone values you, they do not leave you alone with your doubts. Confusion, on the other hand, often asks you to shrink. It teaches you to lower your expectations, ignore your intuition, and accept inconsistency as normal. But clarity invites you to stand firmly in yourself. It reinforces your sense of worth rather than eroding it. It allows you to trust not only the other person, but also your own perceptions and needs. Love is not meant to feel like emotional turbulence. It should not require endurance or constant self-questioning. When love is genuine, it brings steadiness. It speaks clearly through presence, reliability, and care. And in that clarity, you don't just feel chosen, you feel safe. Intensity can be intoxicating. It shows up as constant attention, big words, fast attachment, and emotional highs that feel like connection. But intensity is not the same as commitment. Intensity burns hot and fast, while consistency is quiet, steady, and enduring. Real love is built not on how strongly someone feels in a moment, but on how reliably they show up over time. Consistency is what creates trust. It's the follow-through after the excitement fades. It's the repeated choice to be present, even on ordinary days, even when life is heavy, even when there is nothing to gain. Anyone can be intense when emotions are high. It takes maturity to remain consistent when feelings fluctuate. Love is not sustained by adrenaline, it is sustained by intention. When someone is consistent, you don't have to wonder where you stand. Their behavior does not shift dramatically based on mood, convenience, or circumstance. They don't disappear when things get uncomfortable or complicated. They don't make you chase reassurance. Consistency communicates safety because it removes unpredictability. It allows you to relax into the relationship instead of staying alert for the next emotional drop. Intensity often creates attachment through urgency. It pushes closeness before trust has time to grow. And when intensity fades, as it inevitably does, it can leave confusion, disappointment, and emotional whiplash. Consistency, on the other hand, grows slowly but deeply. It builds connection through repeated care, honest communication, and dependable presence. It may feel less dramatic, but it is far more secure. Consistency also respects your nervous system. It doesn't keep you oscillating between hope and doubt. It doesn't train you to accept inconsistency as passion. Instead, it offers steadiness. You know what to expect, and that predictability becomes a source of peace, not boredom. Love that lasts is rarely loud. It doesn't rely on grand gestures to prove itself. It proves itself through alignment between words and actions, promises and follow-through. Over time, consistency becomes the evidence of love. It shows that someone isn't just moved by emotion, but anchored by choice. And in the end, it is consistency, not intensity, that makes love feel real, safe, and sustainable. Emotions are often misunderstood as something to manage, suppress, or apologize for, especially in relationships. But emotions are not excess weight you bring into connection, they are information. They tell us when something feels safe or unsafe, aligned or off balance, nourishing or draining. When someone truly cares, they don't see your emotions as problems to fix or silence. They recognize them as signals worth listening to. Healthy love creates space for feelings without judgment. It understands that emotions don't appear randomly. They arise in response to experiences. When you express sadness, frustration, or fear, you're not being difficult, you're communicating. And communication is not a burden. It is the foundation of connection. Dismissing emotions doesn't make them disappear. It simply drives them underground, where they often grow louder and more painful. When emotions are treated as information, they invite curiosity instead of defensiveness. Instead of reacting with avoidance or irritation, there is a willingness to ask, "What's coming up for you?" Or "Help me understand." This shift changes everything. It turns emotional moments into opportunities for closeness rather than conflict. It replaces shutdown with dialogue. Many people are taught that love means being easy to love, quiet, agreeable, low maintenance. But real intimacy requires the courage to be emotionally present, both with yourself and with another person. Emotions are not signs of weakness, they are signs of awareness. They show that you are paying attention to your inner world and honoring your experience. When emotions are consistently labeled as too much, people begin to doubt themselves. They silence their instincts, minimize their needs, and learn to tolerate discomfort in the name of harmony. But harmony built on suppression is fragile. It costs authenticity and eventually erodes trust, not just in the relationship, but within the self. Love that honors emotions does not demand perfection or constant positivity. It allows for complexity. It understands that joy and grief, confidence and doubt can exist at the same time. When someone welcomes your emotional truth, they are saying, "You don't have to perform here." And that permission, to feel fully and be met with care, is what transforms love from something fragile into something deeply resilient. Strength and independence are not obstacles to love, they are signs of a whole person. Yet too often, people are taught that being strong means being unapproachable, and being independent means being difficult to love. In reality, healthy love does not require you to shrink, soften, or surrender your autonomy to be chosen. It honors who you already are. When strength is respected, it is not met with competition or control. It is met with admiration. A partner who truly cares does not feel threatened by your confidence, your voice, or your ability to stand on your own. They don't interpret your independence as rejection. They understand that your self-reliance was built long before them, and it deserves respect, not resistance. Independence in love means you choose connection, not dependency. You are together because you want to be, not because you need to be saved or completed. That choice creates a different kind of bond, one rooted in mutual respect rather than fear of abandonment. Love thrives when both people bring their full selves, not when one is asked to disappear into the other. When strength is not honored, it is often subtly punished. You may be labeled intimidating, distant, or emotionally unavailable simply for knowing your worth. You may be asked to be less capable, less vocal, less sure of yourself. But love that requires self-erasure is not love, it is control disguised as closeness. Honoring independence also means trusting your boundaries. It means recognizing that saying no, needing space, or prioritizing your well-being is not a threat to the relationship. A mature partner does not demand constant access to you. They respect that your life, goals, and identity extend beyond the relationship, and that this expansion enriches connection rather than weakening it. Strength in love looks like mutual support without domination. It looks like encouragement without insecurity. It looks like two grounded individuals standing beside each other, not one standing in the shadow of the other. When strength and independence are honored, love becomes a place of expansion, not limitation. You are not loved despite who you are loved because of it. Accountability is one of the clearest markers of emotional maturity, especially in love. It is the ability to look at your own behavior without defensiveness, to acknowledge impact without minimizing intent, and to take responsibility without turning it into shame. When someone is accountable, they don't see being wrong as a threat to their worth. They see it as an opportunity to grow and repair. In relationships, mistakes are inevitable. Words miss their mark. Emotions spill over. Expectations clash. What determines the health of a connection is not the absence of these moments, but how they are handled. Immature responses deflect, deny, or blame. Mature accountability pauses, listens, and responds with honesty. It sounds like, "I see how that hurt you," rather than, "That's not what I meant." Accountability creates safety. When you know someone can own their mistakes, you don't have to stay guarded. You don't have to over-explain your feelings to be taken seriously. Repair becomes possible because responsibility is shared, not avoided. An apology, when paired with changed behavior, rebuilds trust far more effectively than any explanation ever could. Avoiding accountability often hides behind excuses, stress, intention, misunderstanding, or past wounds. While context matters, it does not erase impact. Mature love understands this distinction. It recognizes that acknowledging harm does not erase care, it proves it. Accountability says, "Your experience matters to me, even when it's uncomfortable." There is also accountability to oneself. It means noticing patterns you bring into relationships and being willing to interrupt them. It means recognizing when you've stayed silent instead of speaking up or reacted instead of responding. Growth requires self-honesty, and self-honesty requires courage. Love without accountability becomes unstable. Resentment builds when issues are brushed aside or repeated without repair. But love grounded in accountability evolves. It adapts. It deepens. It allows both people to feel seen rather than dismissed. Maturity in love is not about getting it right all the time. It is about being willing to take responsibility when you get it wrong. And that willingness, to face yourself, to repair, to change, is what transforms love from something fragile into something enduring. Many people grow up believing that love is something you earn through effort, sacrifice, or perfection. You learn to be agreeable, useful, or selfless in the hope that staying lovable will keep connection intact. Over time, love becomes conditional, tied to how much you give, how little you ask for, or how well you adapt to someone else's needs. But real love does not operate on a reward system. It is not granted in exchange for endurance. When you have to earn love, you are always performing. You measure your words, suppress your needs, and overextend yourself just to remain chosen. Presence becomes fragile, and affection feels uncertain. This kind of dynamic teaches you to associate love with anxiety rather than safety. You are never fully at rest because you are always trying to prove your worth. Healthy love begins with acceptance, not evaluation. It doesn't require you to audition for belonging. You are not loved because you're flawless, quiet, or endlessly accommodating. You are loved because you are seen. And being seen means being allowed to exist as you are, messy, evolving, and human. When love is freely given, you don't have to disappear parts of yourself to keep it. You don't have to chase reassurance or negotiate for care. Presence is not used as leverage. It is offered consistently, not withdrawn to control or punish. Love that is genuine does not make you anxious about being replaced or abandoned for having needs. Earning love often comes from environments where affection was unpredictable or conditional. You learn early that connection must be maintained through compliance, but adulthood offers a choice to unlearn that pattern. To recognize that love rooted in fear is not intimacy, it is survival. You deserve a love that meets you where you are, not one that constantly moves the finish line. Love is not a test you have to pass. It is a relationship you are allowed to inhabit. When you stop trying to earn love, you make room for something healthier. Connection that is grounded in mutual respect, emotional safety, and the deep understanding that your worth was never in question to begin with.